American Christianity is extremely different than German Christianity for a number of reasons. Number one is that it's part of our articles of incorporation as a nation that we have the separation of church and state. That doesn't mean that religion has no place in American public life, and it doesn't mean that churches don't have a prominent place in American social life. In fact, there are provisions, for example, in our tax code that incentivize people to be involved in churches, right? So it's not like a completely secularist vision, but it does mean that there is no one state-sanctioned church, right? One of the things we have to understand about Christianity in Germany and lots of places elsewhere in Western Europe is that these are state-sanctioned churches. So pastors and professors of theology are state employees. They're federal employees, yeah. So when the National Socialists came to power and they tried to co-opt the church, it wouldn't be quite the same as it would be here. They were co-opting what was already a sort of formal organ. So that's number one. Number two, we're complaining about inflation because we go into King Soopers and we get sticker shock. And that's true. But you have to understand, like in right after the First World War, so call it 1919, inflation is so catastrophically high that cash is it's basically worthless. It's not basically worthless, it is worthless. People are burning it for fuel instead of using it to buy things. And you'll get images of people bringing a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy like a loaf of bread or something, right? So there's this economic devastation, and then there's also this sense of national humiliation. So after the First World War, the Allied victors put into the Versailles Settlement, the treaty that ended the First World War, they put in a provision that Germany had to take full responsibility for the war and pay massive, cartoonishly high reparations that were just never going to, sent their economy into a tailspin, and it compounded all the problems with inflation, and everything just cratered. But more than that, it was like a psychic wound on the German sort of national identity. They felt tremendously ashamed about this. Althaus was really upset by this. He was a chaplain in the First World War, and he really thinks that the Allied victors had been really cruel and unfair to Germany. So you've got this terrible sense of grievance, and that's one point of contact to our moment. And I want to be clear here, and not just because I'm being diplomatic. I really do believe this. This politics of grievance is a real problem for us, not just on the right, but also on the left, right? So on the right, it's obvious, right? There is a sense of kind of the America that I knew has been taken from me, or values are changing quickly. And by the way, I don't want to dismiss that. I think that's whether a person is right about that is a debate we can have, but that sort of impulse, one can understand the anger. But on the left, it tends to look like sanctimoniousness, right? So I have the right views. People who don't have views like me are stupid, right? And they're bad people, right? So we've got this sort of politics of contempt and grievance. So that's one point of similarity. Another would be, I think Althaus ends up making the decisions he makes because he's having an anxious response to pluralism, right? He's really unsettled that his society is changing. He's really concerned about immigration. He's really concerned about, for example, 1920s Weimar Germany has quite a bustling gay scene, right? So he's really concerned with changing sexual mores. And he thinks, and here's another key similarity, I think, he thinks that Germans are an intrinsically Christian people, right, in their essence. Not just that they have a Christian culture, but that Germans are, Jules, I'm going to use a big word here just to prove that I've been to divinity school. All right, so he thought that Germans were ontologically Christian.
I know that word.
Hey, all right, good. So it's not that they happen to be Christians. It's that there's something deep-seated in their essence that is Christian. And
where did they get that from? Did that stem from Luther in some way?
For sure. Yeah, you're very right to make that connection, right? Althaus will say, and others like him, that the Germans have this sort of tradition of faith that is kind of unrivaled, and they've created a level of theological genius that has kind of been unrivaled by any other nation. And not just Luther, right? He goes back all the way to the High Middle Ages with the conversion of Clovis, right, the king
Oh,
of the
wow.
Franks,
Yeah,
right?
wow.
So
That's in,
yeah,
like the 500s, right?